Howdy, howdy. How are you, Jen?
I am good. How are you?
You are good. I am good. It is, we are 3 hours in, so we're staying strong. I love it. How is your neck of the woods? Are you guys getting snow, rain, heat, all
We are getting our typical Portland beautiful February rain.
good?
We hold out for a day or two of snow here every February, but we'll see if we get it this year.
I love it. I love it. Well, I am gonna, as I've done with every other guest, I'm not gonna do your intro justice. I know, here's one thing I know, you sell a lot of real estate all over the place up there. So I'm gonna turn it over to you and let you kind of tell your story. We're gonna dive into your virtual assistant story slash business structure and kind of share with everybody what you got going on. But I know that your market just went crazy during COVID with all kinds of craziness, much like people watching. So, who is Jen and what has she been up to this year?
Jen is a part of a sixth generation Portland, Oregon family. So this is home. This is as home as it gets. I backpacked around the world and came right back and live about 11 minutes from the house I grew up in with my dad and live about 3 minutes from my in-laws where my husband grew up. So this is home, definitely home. And I've been doing real estate for the last 18 years. I should know that. For the last 18 years. I'm also the productivity coach for our office. So I coach anyone just getting into real estate. And then this past year, I became a MAPS certified business coach as well. So now coaching all the people in whatever job you've got. Sell about 50 houses a year for about say just around $25 million, which up here in this neck of the woods is a lot of homes. And this past year, our market went crazy. So we had a house 2 weeks ago, 60 offers on it, 60. Meaning 59, you had to make 59 phone calls to tell people they didn't get the house before you got to call the one to tell them that they did. So yes, our market is a lot up here.
I love that. So how is your team structured right now? Because I know you're kind of in that transition of growing from, solo agent for many years to a team. And not only are you growing a team, like how big is your productivity program within the office you're in? Because I know it's not small.
No. So COVID changed it a little. I went from 42 people down to 36. So I have 36 people in the coaching program. We meet on a weekly basis. My job is to get them into productivity. They get 1 year with me. And then they graduate out. So it's kind of all my little babies that I have to teach how to fly. So I'm doing that for the last couple of years. And then my team for the past almost 5 years has been me and an assistant. This past year, I brought on my assistant being like literally everything. Licensed assistant, transaction coordinator, like basically if Jen wasn't there, Liz was. And this past year brought on a girl by the name of Christine. And Christine was someone who graduated from my coaching program, kind of just really wanted to be a part of what I was doing. I was resistant to bringing someone on and brought her on. And at the end of the day, I always like to tell people that for an agent only a couple years in, she was making 6 figures before the end of the year. So mutually beneficial for her and I. We were able to help actually 51 families find places last year. And I'd like to think what month I brought on Erin, my virtual assistant.
Probably at least 6 months ago.
Probably getting close, yeah. So Erin came on and has been a game changer in my world because I'm glad this is on your Facebook group and not mine. Very rarely do I touch my social media. But yet everybody's being taken care of and things are happening and it's amazing. So that's my, and then I do have, I have one more buyer's agent. He happens to be a contractor as well. And the best thing about him is that he can do all of our home inspection repairs, licensed and bonded, and real estate licensed. And so he knows the whole gig. So yeah, that's the Sold by Jen team.
Nice. I love it. So talk to me a little bit about like your first steps when you came to us wanting a virtual assistant. Because I know you've known about what I've done for a while. I think you kind of watch from the background, whether it was webinars or our mutual friends that would recommend us. And eventually one day you just came out of nowhere and you're like, Justin, I think I'm ready. And I was like, all right. So you kind of been consuming content like probably a lot of people are consuming this video and different videos like right now. So what for you was that tipping point where you're like, all right, I'm ready to dive in, even though I don't have anything together yet. I just know I'm ready to go. Like, what was that tipping point, and what was kind of that initial feeling that you had to get over to kind of dive into this world?
I'm a very hesitant hirer. Is that a word? Very hesitant hirer. I take it really serious that if I'm hiring somebody, that I'm the one going to put food on their table, and then I need to feel like I can do that for a longer period of time than just like, hey, we tried it, didn't work. And so for me, I think the tipping point was staying up till the wee hours of the night doing social media, making sure the posts were done, knowing that everyone was home during COVID. Oregon's a lot different than a lot of other states. We're like full on and still lockdown, and schools aren't back or anything. So people are home. So social media was huge, and just realizing the number of hours that I spend on that, and that if I could take just one thing off my plate, the cost of a VA in the grand scheme of it was so minimal that even if that's the only thing he ever did, that it was going to be worth it.
No, I love that. So what was kind of for you social media like when you first got them on board? I know that you, like a lot of agents and myself included, like you didn't utilize them fully 40 hours a week because it's one of those things you got to get a muscle to, right? You got to get
Justin, I'm still not using 40 hours a week.
I know. And what's actually funny is I love that. And that's something why some people go, Justin, you love that, is many of my team members too, and I'm glad we're doing this call here, is many of my team members don't work 40 hours a week. If you guys missed John Haas's interview this morning, he was a second interview at like 9:30, so go back and watch that. He said the same thing. He's got his VA doing certain tasks that if he gets it done in 3-4 hours, awesome, I'm gonna pay you for 8 and we're good to go, because like Jen just talked about, the cost of having a virtual assistant is roughly $7,200 a year on average. That is what our average consumer pays, and so you don't need to feel the pressure of having a $50,000 a year employee having to get all this extra work done to be perfect, right? Just getting certain things done. Because what is your average price point, Jen, up in your guys' market now?
We're about $450, $460.
Okay, so one deal a year pays for your VA. So if there's one, and I think what's interesting is you come from the same company that I used to work for, is we have this mindset in Bold, that's a class that teaches reticular activator, where it's like if one thing pops on the screen with Jen's face that wouldn't have popped on last year because she had a VA, and it reminds one person to send a referral or reminds one person to call her instead of somebody else to relist a home, that's the difference in $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year. And so I loved what you said of if that's all he did, you would be good, and your ROI is there.
Yeah, 100%. And I have a lot of guilt around having my executive assistant, who is paid an American salary, of her sitting around, right? So it's like, but I have no guilt about Erin. It's like, here's your job. This is your task. Was it done at the end of the day? Awesome. Good job. Love you.
Yeah. And I love that. And so something else I want to talk about is what I call the ghost gap. And it's something that you maybe never heard of either, but it's something that's true, is when you have VAs, a lot of people think that we're replacing US-based jobs with virtual assistants. And what's really interesting about this is we usually say that consumers, and maybe you can tell me or confirm if this is true or not for you, it's either all or nothing. You either wouldn't have had the position or you would have had the position. And so what I mean by that is a lot of people that get VAs through us, they're fulfilling a position that if their only choice was to go and make a $50,000 a year hire as their second hire on top of what you already have, it just would have never have happened, right?
100%.
And so we're filling a void. It's kind of like this vacuum that's never, it exists. It's either you have one or you don't, right? And so talk to me about that when it comes to new agents you're coaching, because you've probably coached a lot of agents you've seen burnout, right? They come into your program, they crush it. They're making six figures. They try to get to that $200,000 mark. They start to burn out. They probably resist you getting a TC, getting admin because they're scared. They don't have the right mindset, which is hard, right? Something against them. They just haven't gotten that muscle up yet. Talk to me about, like, what do you think the biggest reason is why people don't take the jump to hire an assistant?
I think that it's a lack of knowledge. I think it's a lack of knowledge of what that person can exponentially do for you.
Yeah.
And so those people who are in real estate know Ben Kinney. Ben Kinney one time said, know your hourly wage.
Yeah.
And that was such an interesting thing for me, where it's like, I know what I'm worth every hour. And why am I doing a task that's not worth that hourly wage?
Yeah.
And if I was in corporate America instead, well, I guess real estate sort of is, but if I was in corporate America instead of real estate, as I know, my husband hires an assistant, right? And he doesn't have to think about it because it's not his $50,000.
Yep.
For me, the thought of writing a check for $50,000 every year is mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so you make this commitment, and you make this commitment that you're going to put food on this person's table. But the minute that I heard that, know your hourly wage, that's one of those lessons that I teach people, that I go, are you a $20 an hour worker? Okay, if you're a $20 an hour worker, you should be doing your own social media.
Yep.
When you become a $40 an hour worker, if you paid someone $20 an hour to do it, technically you're still making $20 an hour for the same job.
Absolutely.
And so I think that the people who, and you said it, it took me a long time to bring on a VA. Part of it was that I couldn't understand I was going to pay for 40 hours a week, but I couldn't imagine having 40 hours a week of work.
Yeah, no. And that's what's crazy is the number I just put up on the screen, Jen, that is the hourly wage of a six-figure earner. That is someone making $100. I think a lot of people, when they hear six figures, they think like, oh, that's like $20. Like, they don't actually do the math, but $52 an hour is absolutely, that's if you make $100,000 in 1 cent.
So I'm a $425 an hour earner.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no reason why I'm sitting on Facebook.
Yeah, no, man, you should have told me that before I had you on this show right here, because that got expensive real fast.
I should not be spending an hour on social media.
I love it. I love it. So, with that being said, like, Jen, the other thing I know too is, like, you've been around real estate for long enough. You've seen a lot of the big VA companies. Like you could have gone with a million other options. So, like, why? And I don't even know if I know the answer to this outside of just connections. Like, why?
I hope I do.
Like, what attracted you to our model versus maybe some of the other models out there of companies that maybe have been around twice as long as we have?
So I am a big relationship person. I will never respond to just an ad that comes my way. I am the person who this is where my time does come on social media. I will click on your name and I will see who else knows you, likes you, trusts you. That's number one. Number two is you hit all my pain points. In any of your webinars and those things that you were leading, it was like, is social media a problem? Is such and such a problem? Do you get agent to agent referrals and all these things? And I'm like, oh, if I only did those better, more consistently, that would make sense. And so for me, it was really having my own pain points that were floating around in my brain, thrown in my face repetitively, for me to realize that, number one, that was the company. Number two, while I still have not finished all of the courses that are available, just realizing that I don't have to do all the training has become another one. That I will say I have an exceptional VA who has far surpassed what I could imagine. And I know that everybody has different strengths. He was able to look at my brand, see what my brand looks like, and duplicate that over and over again, which, very honestly, I love and adore my assistant. We have issues with that all the time. She's like, so I made you something in Canva. I know you're going to tweak it 6 times. Yeah. And I'm like, yep. And then Aaron sends me something. He's like, any tweaks? I'm like, posted, and so I appreciate how he was trained to do the job.
Yeah. No.
And that came from you guys.
No, I love that. And I love how you attended so many of those mastermind calls at the beginning where you got to come in and ask questions, because I think it really helped you launch, be able to talk one-on-one and not just sit and stare at an assistant to hope that they know what to do next.
Yeah. I also think the other thing too was every once in a while you guys post somebody posts something. It's not even always from your company. It's always on the Facebook group, but about incentivizing or how do you do things. And so I think that was a cool part that I do bonuses and all that for my team. Yep. And to have someone else say, like, I always thought a VA was some mystery person far away. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's like, no, this is like my person. And like his cat yep. walks across his desk the same way that my child comes in and interrupts things. Right. Like he's my people, like he's part of my team. And so to figure out some incentive of, what was his bonus, and his bonus is, it's gigantic to him. His $1,000 bonus that he has potential to earn. Yeah. I mean, that's more than a month's pay. Yeah. I'm not giving anyone else in my team more than a month's pay. Yeah. Right. Like, so I mean, percentage wise, his bonus is huge. Yeah. And he's super excited about trying to meet it and do these things. And we check in on it. And, I didn't realize how that little bonus could change a lot of things. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you hit a pain point that a lot of people have with VA companies, is when you said that they are an invisible person. So many of the big VA companies, they lock the VAs into such tight restrictions that you can't know their address, you can't know what city they live in. They don't want you to have any information about them because they don't want you to ultimately try and take them away from the company. And yet with our model, when we just give them to you and go, they're associated with us for coaching and training and mentorship and support, but there's no like legal obligation or employment by me to them. It really allows you to do those types of things and bonus and make decisions based on your culture and not based on a contract. We send out a holiday card, and one of the things that he was most excited about was that we put his photo up on the top too. That's so awesome. Like my whole team's photos, and he was like, "Wait, I'm on the card. I'm on the holiday card," and it was cool to like, he's one of us. He's part of my team. No, I absolutely love that. So, what would you say, like, for having team members already? Like, how, like, do they talk to them, or how have they embraced just the general concept of a VA on your team? Like, even if they're not interacting with them as much as you do, like, what has been their thought of like a VA as like? Because we've got some people that go, Justin, I don't know how our team members are going to feel about bringing on a VA. Like, what has been your team's acceptance of that? My team thinks he's amazing. I definitely get stuck in the weeds on things. And they know that they can ask me a question, and they also know that I usually get around to, well, you've gotten text messages, emails from me in the middle of the night. About 11 p.m. is when I finally get to sit down and deal with my team, right? The people on my team, because I've been doing clients all day long. Of course. And they'll call me, or they'll send me a message, and they're like, "Hey, can you tell me the answer to this?" And I'll instantly, and I'm like, "Hey, Aaron, Christine's got a question for you. Can you take care of that from my email?" And it's like, oh, that was fast. Yeah. And so he comes to all of our team meetings every Tuesday. So they know him, and yeah, they think that he is a game changer for how I respond to things. I love it. He makes me do things. Like, it's like, "Hey, Jen, I'm still waiting on your photo. Hey, Jen, I'm still waiting on your photo." Mm-hmm. And yeah, my team loves it. He's accelerated the timeline, things that you would eventually get done that might not be a huge press. It sounds like you've shortened the time gap because you got someone helping you identify those bigger things that need to get done. They'd like to know how many more people I'm hiring. I love it. No, and I think that's what's super cool about your guys' structure. And we talked about in the last thing is based on your guys' price point. I know the MREA model is something I know you model after to a degree. And, when you talk about 10% of salaries is what the standard is, like, being able to, you could add a lot of VAs over time when the sense made right, still stay within really healthy margins as your team grows. Yeah, it's for me, it's about figuring out what's their one thing, right? So if Erin's one thing is social media, what would the next person's one thing be?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's my pain point. I don't want, it's too hard for me to have to follow up on 16 things that they're doing. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's like, okay, fantastic. You met the goal.
Yep.
And like you said, I mean, we're talking $8,000 a year.
Yeah. Well, and what's really interesting, and I want to bring up a concept, everybody watching here, we call this the gap theory. So let's say you use Erin on average 25 hours a week right now. What you are paying him 40 for is you're paying him 40 to be eventually at 40 and really good at doing his 40. And so you're at a team member or two now. If over the next 10 years you grow to a team of 10 people because the right people fall into your life, Erin now can do 10 people's social medias, and that would be 40 hours a week, and you don't have to train him for all those new people. And so once you keep growing, you have a social media person. Maybe the next need is a client concierge, right? Maybe the next need is Facebook ad, like whatever that is, but you don't have to pressure that person into learning 20 different sectors of your business. You know they're really darn good at one of them, and as you well know, that's a value add to your team when they have someone doing those things for them.
And I think the other thing that I pay him for that's been really powerful for me is I pay him to be available.
Yeah.
Right. So with my other team members, they're not like, they're doing something. They're not at their computer. They're away from what I need at this exact moment. And so I pay him to be available. And it's super weird to pay somebody to literally wait for you to ask for something. And it's amazing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And what I see with that too is some people always ask us, well, Justin, why don't we just like go hire Fiverr or Upwork or things like that? And it's what you said there is those people are only going to work. They're going to charge you $8 an hour, and they're going to be available 10 hours a week, but it's not the 10 hours that you want them to be available. It's on the other side of the world. It's on their time zone. Where with you, it's on your time zone, and they work the hours that you want to work and available when you need it.
Well, and I've tried all those.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's the other thing. You asked what took so long for me to jump on. I exhausted literally everything and being like, oh, I've got a niece. She can do social media. Oh, I've got a brother. He can order some, I mean, it's like, I did it all. And to realize that I pay him weekly, and to write a check for $200 a week is like the best $200 a week that I pay.
I love that. I love that. So as we kind of wrap up here, like, tell me again, like, what's your primary service area? We got people all over the world listening to this right now. I think on one of my screens, it shows we have 97 people from 7 different countries listening. So for people that are listening into this, like, where's your primary market? Where can you help? And then even people in your own market, what do you got going on?
So we are Portland, Oregon. We are also licensed, for people who don't know, Portland, Oregon and Vancouver, Washington are like a stone's throw away, but they require 2 different licenses. And so we are licensed in both Oregon and Washington. We pretty much do the whole state. The beauty of that is that we have a vacation home. And so I don't mind which direction I go because there are places for me to go. So we pretty much do all of Oregon. And so the Oregon, Portland metro area, Vancouver metro area.
I love that. I love that. So last question I have for you is, what is one thing you're excited about for Erin to take off your plate in the future that you might not have him doing for you right now? Like, what is one thing that you want to get done in the future you just haven't taken the time to do yet? It's a tricky one.
I know. No prep, no nothing.
No prep.
I think that it's going to be more of own. I think so I've started him on agent to agent accelerator. And I think it's going to be owning that 100% and realizing that it's, I feel like you can screw it up, and realizing you can't screw it up. Yeah. And so I think that that's probably the biggest, is letting me step away from agent to agent.
No, I love that. If you guys don't know what she's talking about right now, the whole theory behind agent-to-agent accelerator is your VA makes you become extremely popular among other people, right? So, Jen wants to become popular with everybody in Seattle. She wants to become popular among these people just by people knowing her as the Portland, Oregon queen, right? You don't have to be the Portland, Oregon queen to everybody, just to those people. So when they get referrals, and the VAs can do a lot of things to help make sure that she becomes the forefront in their mind over time.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's the next thing we're working on.
I love that. I love that. Well, last question I have for you is, do you have any pieces of advice for anybody that's like, is the VA for me or not? Like, what steps would you recommend them take to kind of finalize in their brain whether it is or isn't for them?
I don't know that there was anything that someone could have said to me that would have made me move faster, but I do get a lot of people that told me for years to do it, especially my team leader who's like, oh, my VA does this, my VA does that. I guess I would say take the leap of faith in yourself, that you have enough things to take off your plate. Again, figure out your hourly wage, because if my hourly wage is in the 400s and I'm paying someone $200 a week, that's literally 30 minutes of my week. Mm-hmm. And I just gained 40 hours of work. Yeah,
I love it. I can't even say. I mean, you're paying 1 hour. You're paying 30 minutes of your
30 minutes.
30 minutes of your week. Absolutely crazy. Well, Jen, I know you're super busy. I know that I owe you $250 now. I'm just kidding. I owe you lunch. I owe you a visit now based on your hourly rate. Man, hell, my next guest, Jackie, who's coming on, I probably owe her $500. She makes out in Denver, so I see her laughing there. So it became an expensive day real fast. So thanks for bringing up the hourly rates. With that being said, I appreciate you jumping on. And as always, if there's anything I can do for you, with much love, we appreciate you.
Thanks, Justin.
Absolutely. Thank you.